Good morning. Dr. John Taylor Kent here. Got a verse out of the book of Jeremiah for you. Jeremiah 1, verse number 10. This is Jeremiah's mission. I just want to expand upon this one verse for you just for a brief video. Then Yahweh put forth his hand and touched my mouth. And Yahweh said to me, Behold, I have put my words in your mouth. See, I have this day set you over the nations and over the kingdoms, to root out and to pull down and to destroy and to throw down, to build and to plant. This is a pretty important verse. I actually read verses 9 and 10 for you. This is basically Jeremiah being called out for his job, for his mission, and Yahweh giving that to him. And here's what he says. You're going to root out. So basically, what did Jeremiah try to root out? He rooted out evil. Pulled down. He pulled down those institutions built upon evil. And destroyed. Ultimately, he did prophesy against the temple, against Jerusalem, and it was destroyed. There's no doubt about that. And to throw down, and to build, and to plant. To build and to plant. The most important thing is to plant, because Jeremiah completed his mission. This is very important. And I don't think I'm going to be able to turn to Ezekiel and find it right in this particular version of the Bible, because I haven't read this enough. But basically, there's a section of Ezekiel in which he describes the great eagle. And the great eagle he's speaking of is Jeremiah. And in that verse, in those verses, the Bible says clearly that the great eagle shall pluck off the uttermost twig, the uttermost branch of the great cedar, meaning of the line of David. And the word for twig was in the feminine gender. So it indicated he was going to take a female and plant her. And this is exactly what Jeremiah did. We also believe that he went to the New World after that, and he planted things in North America, which was the New World at that time. We believe he may have taken the Ark of the Covenant and buried that here in North America. It hurts. My dog is tending to my wounds, and I can't stop her very well. She's going to lick my bruise no matter what, and it almost tickles, but it hurts quite a bit. Yeah, she pulled me down out in the street here. We're having a problem with our, with who's in charge. Really, that's about what it is. Who's the alpha? And she's got championship breeding in her. She's got a big ego. And I'm trying to make her a little bit nicer. So in that book of Ezekiel, and Ezekiel was a little bit of a different prophet, major prophet nonetheless, but some of his visions were a little different. He describes the great eagle taking the tender twig off the tree of David and transplanting it. Now, what had happened is that when Jerusalem was taken down, Jeremiah, one of the captains that was left in charge of Jeremiah, decided they were going to go to Egypt. And Yahweh told Jeremiah clearly and cleanly and definitely, do not go to Egypt, you will die there. Basically, you weren't going to come back, you weren't going to get out of there. So Jeremiah had taken 2 of the crown princesses with him. That would have been Tia Tamir, the eldest daughter, who was the inheritor of the crown. You see, the king had been captured as he tried to run from the city at night. And he was captured and taken to Nebuchadnezzar. Nebuchadnezzar had his sons, the crown princes, killed before the king's eyes, and then put the king's eyesight out, put his eyes out, blinded him, and then hauled him off in fetters and chains to Babylon, where he finished out his life. However, they didn't kill the 2 crown princesses. Very important. And there's some videos on YouTube that don't get this right. You'll find my comments on those videos pointing this out. So one of the princesses' name was Scota. Now that's very important because the Scottish people are named after Scota. And what she did was when Jeremiah got back to Jerusalem, he gathered up the crown jewels, the genealogies, some of David's musical instruments, the pillow stone, and the Ark of the Covenant. And he sailed on a ship of Tarshish, and at that point that was referring to the deep sea vessels that were going out and had been going out since the time of Solomon. And they would go to the New World where Solomon mined for gold and silver up at the Great Lakes. They went clear up the Mississippi River to accomplish that. So, and it was a 2-year trip. It would take them 2 years to navigate over to the New World and then back. So it was a round trip. It was a 2-year or longer, depending on what they did. No. So, Jeremiah stopped in Spain. And in Spain, he married the younger princess, Princess Scota, to an Israelite there who was in dispersion. The Israelites in Spain had left back at the time before the Babylonian captivity. So they would have left around 622 BC and settled there. However, prior to arriving in Spain, that particular group of Israelites settled in Greece. And they were notorious for one thing in particular. This tribe refused to go to war against their Israelite brothers. They wouldn't do it. They weren't going to lift a weapon and go after their brothers. Scota and her people left Spain and migrated north to the land that became known as Scotland. And the importance of that is we have the Arbroath Treaty. And the Arbroath Treaty is our documentation proving that the Scots were descendants of Israel from the northern 10 tribes. As a matter of fact, they appealed when they wanted to be recognized as an independent nation. They appealed to the Pope, and the Pope recognized them as having the documentation showing that they had come from Spain, and prior to that they had come from Greece, and they originated in the northern tribes of Israel. So that, hands down, is the best proof we have that white Caucasians of Israel are descendants of Europe. I should have said, are descendants of Israel. No, stop laughing me. Go lay down. Lay down. Lay down. She's got to have all this attention. She's real high-strung. Her father was the champion representing the country of Romania for several years. So she's very capable, very smart dog. Sit! Good girl, good sit. And she likes it when I give her the harsh commands. I try to treat her like a simple puppy dog, but she's not. She's like a super dog. So, Jeremiah sailed, got back on the ship after marrying off the Princess Scota, and he sailed through the Straits of Gibraltar, and he went up the coast of Spain. He went up to the northern coast of Ireland, and there he married off the crown princess, Tia Tamir, to the leading chieftain of Northern Ireland. I'm going to try to say his name, Ecodad. I don't know how to say it properly. I've never heard anyone ever pronounce it. It's one of those words with several vowels in it. However, the word is that in order to be able to marry the crown princess, this chieftain had to agree to several things. I think one was they had to get rid of the false religions, the snakes, if you will. It said that Jeremiah cleared Ireland of the snakes. He had to open up some sort of a seminary to teach the true religion of Yahweh. And there were several things he had to agree to. before he was allowed to marry the crown princess. And when he married the crown princess, it was documented in Ezekiel that the great eagle did this. That was Jeremiah. That it says, I shall turn over the crown 3 times. Now, the first turnover was from the line of Pharez, which David was a descendant of Pharez, to a man who was a descendant of Zerah, which the leading chieftain of Northern Ireland was. So that was the first turnover of the crown, in which the low branch shall be made high, and the high branch shall be made low. So that was the exchange of the leadership. Now, if you go way back, these 2 boys, the twins, were born to Tamar. That was her mother's name way back then, who was actually the daughter of Judah. And she had 2 husbands, and they both died on her. And Judah didn't give her his 3rd son, which was what he's required to do according to Israelite tradition, to keep the name of the family alive and keep the name of that first son alive. She was supposed to marry the 2nd son, and the first child was supposed to be named after her first husband. That's how they preserved that line. Well, the first one was Er, and it said that Yahweh put him to death. If we read carefully, we find out that Judah had taken a woman of the land to wife. In other words, a Canaanite. So he married a Canaanite, and they had already been told, don't intermarry with these people. Yahweh had warned them about 5 times in the Bible. 5 times he told them, don't do this. Don't intermarry with them. And so her first husband, Yahweh put to death. That's what the Bible says. And the second husband, Onan, sinned. He every time he laid with her, he would roll over and he would ejaculate on the ground, depriving her of the seed, so that she couldn't get pregnant and have a child to carry on the first son's name. God put Onan to death as well. So Er, E-R-R, and Onan, O-N-A-N, were put to death by Yahweh because they didn't do as Yahweh commanded. And then there was a 3rd son available, but Judah panicked, thinking, my God, I've already lost 2 sons. I don't want to lose this boy. And so he told Tamar, the boy's too young right now. Wait until he's old enough. Then I will give him to you for a husband. When she saw that Judah never honored his word, never lived up to his word, she became incensed. He had violated the law. Judah had. It was at that point that she went to the intersection of the roads upon which she knew Judah would be coming back from his business that he was going on. He went on a business trip. And so she dressed herself up in black lace and heavy makeup as a shrine prostitute at the intersection. And she knew when Judah was coming back. Judah comes back. He sees the shrine prostitute and wants to go into her. Wants to have sex. Wants to engage in an act of prostitution. And she asked, what shall you give me? And he said, I'll give you a young kid. I'll give you a young goat. That's going to be your wages for having sex with me. And then she asked, what will you give me in pledge? And if we go back, we see that Judah gave Tamar 3 different items in pledge. 3 items of his. And in the King James, there are 3 particular objects. And in the proper name version of the King James, there is a variance on one of those items. You need to look that up for yourself. I can't do everything for you, but go look that up. And basically, Judah leaves thinking, that's it. It's a simple transaction. The deal is done. And then he goes home and he sends his man, his right-hand man, with a goat, a young kid, for the shrine prostitute at the intersection. His man goes there with the goat, with the kid, And I'll be damned, he can't find her. So his man asked about the shrine prostitute. And the people said, what are you talking about? Shrine prostitute? There's never been a shrine. There's never been a prostitute here. We've never seen one. You don't know what you're talking about. So Judah's man, his servant, went back to Judah and reported to him. And Judah said, well, very well. She got what she wanted. And that's it. Well, a few months later, Judah's right-hand man, his servant, comes up to him and say, hey, the people want to stone Tamar because she's been playing the prostitute. She's with child and they want to put her to death. And so Judah sends over his man to Tamar and asks, what's with this? What have you done? And she pulls out the 3 items of Judah's. I think one was the lanyard, one was the signet ring, and there was a 3rd item there. So these were the items from which he did his business transactions and did his business contracts, signed them, sealed those. Anyway, she hands Judah's man, the father of the child belongs to these 3 things belong to the father of the child. And so the servant went to Judah, says, here is what she had. And she says, the father of the child gave her these. They belong to the father of the child. And Judah, seeing his 3 items, realized that he was the father and realized that he had failed in abiding by the proper law by not giving her his youngest son, withholding his youngest son from her, which he was required to give her according to Israelite law. And he let her live because it was his child. It turns out that she had twins. And if you read that section of the Bible, stop looking at that. Lay down. Sit. Come on, sit. Good girl. Good girl. She ended up having twins, and if you listen to the words that are written in the Old Testament that the midwife said, they were all prophetic. And the first of the children stuck his hand out, and they wanted to mark the oldest child. That was important for the inheritance, right? So she tied a scarlet thread, a red thread around his wrist. And the baby pulled his wrist back inside. And you can read what the midwife says, oh, that's the way you want to play. And then the second child came out first. And so the first one was named Zerah because it means the seed. And the second of the twins came out first. And because Zerah had actually broken the breach first, went back in, and Pharez came out. And Pharez means there's been a breach. And apparently there was contention between Zerah and Pharez, and everybody probably was arguing about who was the inheritor, who was the first son. So, Zerah was noted for his intelligence. And Zerah had 5 boys, 5 sons, all noted for their intelligence. And they left the promised land before Israel and his children left the promised land, the land of Canaan, to go to Egypt for the famine. So those, Zerah, his wives, and his boys all left early on. And then one of his boys founded the city of Troy, and the others really broke across Europe. And one of them ended up in Northern Ireland. And so here we have Zerah taking over the lead because that chieftain now became Israel's king proper. And then the pillow stone ended up going to Scotland. And then it went to England. And so the first turnover of the crown from Ezekiel's prophecy occurred in Northern Ireland. The second turnover occurred when the crown was taken from Northern Ireland to Scotland. And the third turnover was from Scotland to England. And by the way, that pillow stone, the same stone that Jacob slept on that night, the same stone from which the Israelites got water in the desert. I know it's kind of amazing, but that's what happened. That same stone is in that throne, the coronation chair that's now in Scotland. And so that's an important love story, and I'd love to tell people of that. I find it's one of those things I can tell that endears everyone to the fact that, the Bible is quite true. It's an amazing set of books, and it's worthy of our time. If we want to survive as a civilization and maintain Western civilization, we need to read the Bible. It explains the current status of the world and the war that we're living through right now. And if you read the Bible, you won't be so easily deceived. So my big deal is that Jeremiah was able to plant. He didn't just tell the people that they were going to suffer destruction because of their sins, and they did want to kill them because of that, by the way. And he also told them what they could do to recover, which they never did, which is the same way it is in the United States of America today. And so I tell you, read the Bible. Do your best to abide by the lives, the good examples, and the rules, the law given in the Bible. But then thereby you will be blessed, and Yahweh will step in and rescue us, and maybe put off some of this destruction we're scheduled for. Yes, we're already scheduled for it. Lay down. Lay down. What did I say? She's got a better memory than I have. She's really intelligent, quite beautiful. She's 9 months of age, and it's going to be a long time till she settles down. She's already eaten up too much of my carpet here. I am going to breed this dog, and I am going to have puppies for sale. I'm going to use the championship bloodline. We're working on training her to make sure that she's got something to contribute to the breed. I think she's going to be fine. The owner is the problem. There's nothing wrong with her. I'm just not a very good dog handler. So she's going to be growing me up. I just hope that we don't have any real serious problems. So Jeremiah was an incredible prophet, and Ezekiel writes about Jeremiah, and this all started way back in the book of Genesis. So you need to understand Genesis rather well. And then the amazing thing is that the Savior, the Messiah, came from Judah's line. Pharez, from which David came. And now today, some of those that have been on the throne in England, because I don't think the current inhabitant is legitimate, some of those on the throne have come from that line as well, only from the line of Zerah. So it's very interesting that we have that changeover, and that it's covered in such beautiful poetry, such a beautiful romantic story in the Bible. And there are extra biblical stories that support that as well. So do me a favor, like my video, share it with others who are believers. Don't share it with people who aren't believers. This is considered advanced, or at least intermediate. It's certainly not beginner level. I will try to cover things as basic as I can, and you'll understand that there are limitations to what I understand here. I ask you to read it for yourself. You're going to discover things that I miss. The Holy Spirit will reveal things to you that I haven't discovered yet, that haven't been revealed to me. I hope you'll become better than I don't want you to become any less. I'm hoping that some of you young folks will get the Bibles and read it. This is the Bible that you want. Proper name version of the King James Bible. It's a beautiful brown leatherette copy that I have. You can get it in black. You can get it with tabs. If you're a beginning Bible reader, get the tabs. Make it easier for yourself. You'll outgrow those eventually, because you'll understand different parts of the Bible. At least I hope. And our goal here is to produce a nation that has at least 5% Bible readers, daily Bible readers, people who are committed to reading the Bible through and through and throughout their lives. One of my friends has been reading the Bible, I'm going to guess, for about 55 years right now. I think he's actually just a few months older than I am, or younger than I am. I've only been reading the Bible for approximately 15, 16 years. I started out with an NIV study Bible. Then I went to parallel King James with the NIV. And then from there, I grabbed a hold of a New Revised Standard Version. And then out came the proper name version of the King James Bible, which corrects many of the omissions and errors of Ptolemy II when he produced the Septuagint in approximately 275 BC. And I think it's important that we know his name. And so in this Bible, we have his name, and we have Yahshua's name as well. So this is just a much more accurate presentation. And it helps because it helps to avoid some of the assumptions that we're prone to making from the King James Old English. If you want to support me and my channel, do pick up a copy of this Bible. Make it a gift for somebody. Get a large copy for your coffee table or for your own reading. You can get the smaller print editions, which are still pretty big anyway. But this is 14-point stuff. I mean, that's kind of big. You know, you can read that, I'm sure, right there. This Bible has a 2015 copyright date and a 2019 publishing date. It's harder to get these because these were printed in Belarus by a Christian family over there. We're not able to do business with them, I don't think, for a little while. It took 5 years to clear the copyrights with the Crown. And I know you're saying, what do you mean? The King James isn't a copyrighted book. Well, in America, it's not copywritten, but the rest of the world it is. And it took 5 years of negotiating with the Queen's attorneys to get permission to produce this version of the King James Bible. So I think we're very fortunate to have it. So that's it. That's Jeremiah. And that's also Ezekiel, and that's also the twins. If you ever see a coat of arms with a hand in the air with a scarlet thread, typically a red hand with a scarlet thread around it, that indicates from Zerah, the descendants of Zerah. So I think Zerah deserves to be called a tribe unto itself. And of course, Pharez, having produced the Messiah, needs to be recognized for what it is as well. I hope you enjoyed that story. It's one of my better ones. I don't know how many more I have. We'll give it a go. I tried to publish my videos on both channels. They won't upload the video I already uploaded on Awakening Israel on this channel. I've had more viewers and more response on this channel, so I'm going to put all of my efforts into developing this channel right now. I do have one strike on the other channel. I made the mistake of mentioning politics, and well, I'm just going to have to avoid that. I can't discuss factual stuff, truthful stuff. We have no First Amendment rights anymore. The bad guys are detailed in the Bible, and they are Edomites, and the fellows who are doing their best at censoring us, Google, YouTube, Facebook, they're all descendants of Edomites. So you need to find out what an Edomite is. You know, there's a lot to be learned, and it's very difficult. You're all welcome, regardless of age, or I prefer adults, to be honest with you. I'm not doing this for children. I really want people of European descent to cue in, because your survival may depend upon this material. And the rest of you need to chime in too, because the survival of all life on the planet, to me, appears to hang in the balance. And I will end this with my famous statement, the earth groans for her saviors.